back to my channel. Okay, so yesterday they administered the first doses of the experimental, yes, I said experimental, COVID vaccination. Okay, now the reason why I say experimental is because what everybody needs to remember is that this vaccine is still being tested. And those of you that are a part of the initial group of people that are determined to receive this vaccine are part of basically a study to see how effective this vaccine is. Now, I don't just say that off of my own opinion. Yesterday, I believe the America's Frontline Doctors, which those of you, I can't say too much because then I'm going to get, my video is going to get flagged on here. But there was a group of doctors that, stood up and talked about the effectiveness of hydroxychloroquine and how it was very effective in treating the virus, and that we didn't need to take such measures as, the mask wearing and the shutdowns and all this stuff. So I'm sure I'm giving you enough information on, to determine which doctors I'm talking about, but they're known as the American Frontline Doctors. I will put a link to their website also below in the description box so you can go there and see a little bit more. But they had a summit yesterday, and at that summit, they also stressed that from a doctor's, perspective, okay, in the medical community, this is known as an experimental vaccine, okay, because obviously they haven't been testing it for very long, okay? We have been with this virus for 9 months. They put this vaccine through a very rapid testing phase, ultimately skipping phase 2. So they went from phase 1 to phase 3. And the reason why is phase 2 is actually involved in animal testing. So they have not yet tested this vaccine on animals to see how it affects them. And they also don't know how the vaccine is going to do with pregnant women and children. Okay, so let's get into the details of yesterday when they administered the vaccine. So there was a very creepy, I think it was creepy, video, okay, that was put out there. It was Andrew Cuomo. It was a critical care nurse from Long Island Jewish Medical Center named Sandra Lindsay, and a doctor that was administering the vaccine. And then I don't know who the other gentleman was. I failed to get his title, was standing there in the video next to her. Now, I'm not going to play this video in this clip, okay, but I'm going to put a link to it so you guys can watch it if you want to watch it. But to me, it had a lot of similarities to like a hostage video, okay? And let me just tell you why. Now, I don't mean to make light of this, okay, but I just want to like put your mind in the right place, okay? Because I know that the media has got you in a place of fear. Now, the reason why I say this looked like a hostage video is they had Sandra Lindsay, the nurse, sitting in a chair, okay, a typical chair that you would see when you're getting your blood taken or you're getting a vaccine. And she was sitting there, and then they had a doctor on one side of her and then this other gentleman on the other, okay? And then on a split screen, they had Governor Cuomo speaking about, how excited he was about, being able to be a part of this moment. And, there was a whole weird, like, Darth Vader sound going on every few seconds in the video. Again, watch the video so you can see what I'm talking about. It was just a really, really weird situation, okay? Then, Governor Cuomo says his 2 cents in the video, and they administer the vaccine on live TV. They ask her for a quote in which she says she feels relieved, like healing is coming, okay? Which, mind you, this woman is not infected with COVID. She's just a healthcare worker. I don't want to say just, but she is a healthcare worker, and she's getting it because she's a healthcare worker and they're first in line. But her quote was, she feels relieved like healing is coming. And I'm thinking in my head, like, what does she mean? She feels relieved like healing is coming. First of all, you're not sick, okay? Number one. Number two, they stress in the video that you still have to wear masks. You still have to stay socially distanced, regardless of whether you get the vaccine or not. Okay. So what exactly is she talking about is my question. Okay. Then she goes on to kind of say like a little spiel that is obviously written out for her. And she says it very like mechanically and robotically, very similar to a hostage video, okay? Like when somebody's sitting there in the chair and they're like, my captors have treated me well. I'm not being hurt. Please send money. help. Like, that was the vibe of it, okay? But let me move on from that. Let me give you some facts about yesterday. So yesterday represented the largest vaccination effort in U.S. history, okay? In U.S. history, it has been the largest vaccination ever. Now, I'm going to go into why that is crazy in a second, okay? Now, there are 3 million doses that have been delivered to 145 sites across the United States, okay? Priority will be given to frontline workers and nursing home residents, okay? Yesterday, coincidentally, when they were administering the vaccine, we crossed the 300,000 death toll mark, okay? So to put that in perspective, this is coming from an article. This is not me giving you this comparison. I would never come up with this comparison, okay? But 300K death toll since we have had COVID in the works, okay? That is 5 times the number of people killed in the Vietnam War, and also equal to the 9/11 attack if it happened every day for 100 days, okay? Now, the reason why I think those two comparisons, two scenarios are completely ridiculous is they're comparing it to two things that cannot be helped. Now, some people will say, well, war can be helped, you know. No, war is inevitable, you know, when there's an attack on our sovereignty, okay? And we need to go fight for people. It's inevitable, okay? So to compare it to two things that you really can't do anything about is a little bit crazy, okay? But they brought up death, so I want to bring up death, okay? Now, I went into this a little bit further in a previous video that I did about, you know, getting your facts straight about what the vaccination is and the flu versus COVID. But let me give you some really useful facts as you are still continuing to look at whether you are going to get the vaccine or not, okay? So remember, 300K have died of COVID, okay? So keep that 300K in the back of your mind as I read through these numbers. 2.8 million people die from obesity or obesity-related issues. 2.8 million. This is per year, okay? Compared to 300K who have died of COVID. 655,000 people die each year of heart disease. 650,000 people die of the flu, okay, per year. Now, this number is very interesting. As I mentioned in my previous video, that the flu is not reported the same way across each state, okay? Nor is it reported the same way that COVID is reported. Now, I go into why that is in my other video, so I will link that below so you can watch that as well, okay? And then the final figure is 599,000 people die of cancer each year. Now, the reason why I bring those figures up next to the 300K of people that have died of COVID is because you have to ask yourself, why are we going so hard, okay, with the shutdowns, with the masking, with the quarantines, with ruining people's lives, with, expediting a vaccination, with doing vaccines online, with former presidents offering to get the vaccine in front of people so that they can show how safe it is? Why are we going to those lengths for something that has killed 300,000 people this year so far? Granted, that's a big number, but when you think about how many people are on this planet, it's not that big, okay? Why are we going so hard for something and not going so hard to help people not be so obese, to do things to make foods healthier and more affordable so people can be healthier and not die of obesity? 2.8 million people die of obesity. Why are we not doing things to help people who suffer from heart disease? Why are we not putting more studies into that? Why are we not putting more effort into finding a cure for the flu? Why? The flu, it's been around forever. Why are we not putting that same effort into that, okay? And cancer. Cancer is the biggest one. It has been around forever. 599,000 people die each year of cancer, and there's many different cancers out there. And you're telling me we haven't been able to find a cure for cancer? Okay, now these are just the top 4. There's other things that fall in a higher priority or death rate toll than COVID. Okay, so I say that because I need people to understand the facts. Now, this is the other thing that I have been seeing in comments that is a little bit alarming. I myself did not know much detail about this. I had heard about it, but I really didn't think about the comparison until I saw it in a comment from somebody. And a lot of people were a little bit freaked out by the fact that when they were showing specific people getting this vaccine yesterday, those people just so happened to be African American women. Okay. Now, the one that I saw, which was Sandra Lindsay, she was African American. She's of Jamaican descent, I believe, but she was also getting the vaccine given to her by an African American woman. The second woman that I saw was also African American, and she was also getting the vaccine administered by an African American healthcare professional. Okay. Now, some of you may not think that that's a big deal, okay? But think back to when Dr. Fauci just said just a few days ago, he made it a point to say that African Americans should be excited to take this vaccine because an African American woman played a part in developing the vaccine. Then you had Bill and Melinda Gates coming out saying that African American people had to really think about how important it was for them in specifics to get this vaccine. So one has to ask themselves, why are they pushing this issue of race so hard in correlation with this virus and the vaccine? Now, people are going to say, well, Monique, because the studies show that people of color are more impacted by this virus. Well, you want to know why that is? Okay, I know my skin is really light, but I'm considered a person of color because I'm full Hispanic, okay? This is why. Because historically, Blacks and Hispanics in particular have really shitty diets, okay? We eat a lot of starches, we eat a lot of carbs, exercise and healthy living is not part of how we are brought up. It's just not how it is. And that's why we are more impacted. Then you bring into the equation social economics, things like that, accessibility to healthy foods and all this other stuff. That's the real reason why our people are affected more by this disease, because we have more comorbidities. That's just the facts, you guys. That is the facts. So people are comparing the fact that they made it a point to really target specifically the Black community in showing Black women getting this vaccine and talking about how important it is because a Black woman had a part in developing the vaccine. And then you have Bill and Melinda Gates who, hello, since when do we listen to an IT guy about our medical advice? Does anybody think about that? The guy fixes motherboards, okay? Why are we taking medical advice from this guy or his wife for that matter, okay? But I digress. So they're comparing this to the Tuskegee experiment, which targeted Black people from 1932 to 1972. Now, a lot of people don't know what the Tuskegee experiment is. What this was they took syphilis and injected it into 600 specifically impoverished Black men, okay? They were a part of this study. Now, a certain number of them got the actual syphilis strain, and some of them did not as part of the experiment, but they weren't told exactly what they were getting. They were told that they were being given free health care, and that's it, okay? Come to find out later, they had syphilis, okay, which they ruined their lives basically. Okay. So they were comparing it to that because it was almost like, oh my gosh, like, why are they using Black people as the face of this vaccine? So I'm just going to put that out there. I'll let you guys decide on that. I'll let you guys do your research on that. But the question is this: will this vaccine remain a choice? That is my main concern. I could care less if there's a vaccine out there. It'll be interesting to see what the effects will be on Miss Sandra Lindsay in particular. I actually posted a post on my Facebook about Sandra Lindsay because you know how Facebook likes to remind you every year of posts that you've made. Well, that'll serve as my reminder in a year from now to see how Sandra is doing and to see if they have followed up on her health since then, okay? I obviously hope that she doesn't have any adverse effects to this vaccine, but I'm still curious. I want to see what happens. But another funny thing, and I'll also put the link below to this, is there is what they're calling a COVID calculator. the COVID vaccine calculator. So what this calculator does is it tells you an estimate of where you are in line to receive the vaccine if you choose to get it. Choose right now is the operative word. However, I went on there and I, put in my basic information, which they ask you about your health. They ask you, your age. They ask you about what county you live in. They ask you what your profession is. And then they ask a yes or no question on whether you are, more at risk, have had COVID, or are susceptible to COVID, obviously because you have comorbidities. And then they give you a number, okay? My number, I'm number 268 million in line. And let me tell you, I've never been so happy to be at the back of the line in my freaking life. Now, I didn't just stop there. I actually, said, well, let me play with the information a little bit. Let me change my county to maybe like a predominantly Black county or predominantly white county. And that didn't change my information. I changed my age, same thing. I was getting that 268 million. When it did change was when I changed my profession to like a healthcare worker or a teacher, and then changed the yes or no question on whether I was more susceptible to getting COVID because of comorbidities. That moved me up in the line considerably, and it didn't give me a number. It basically told me I was behind very few people to receive the vaccine. So just know, if you go and do this COVID calculator, it is a very rough estimate of where you fall in line, because right now, obviously, they only have so many vaccines. Now, they have to give this vaccine, I think there's 3 companies that have developed the vaccine. 2 of them is a 2-part vaccine. So they're getting the first vaccination, and then 3 weeks later, they have to get the second. Now, the interesting thing about that is they don't have enough vaccines for that second vaccination as of yet. They're supposed to be delivering it within a month, but that's not guaranteed. So what happens if you go and get this first vaccine and then they're like, we're not ready to release the second vaccine, and now you're past your 3-week time period in which you're due to get the second vaccine? Nobody has talked about that. Nobody has said what happens. Do you have to start it all over again? Who knows? I don't know how that goes, okay? But those are all questions that we all need to be asking ourselves. And I made this video because I want people to ask themselves a lot of questions and get a lot of answers that they can go out and get for themselves. Don't rely on the media and the news to give it to you. Do the research. Look up what ingredients are in this vaccine. Look up what those ingredients do. What are the side effects? Okay. Again, I point out COVID has a 99% survival rate, meaning if you contract COVID, you have a 99% chance of beating it. That means 1% do not beat COVID and they ultimately succumb to it. And those 1% are people that have comorbidities or other issues, okay? The vaccination only has a 94% effectiveness, meaning it's not going to guarantee that you don't get COVID. It only has a 94% effectiveness of you not getting COVID or having a less intense symptoms of COVID, which will allow you to hopefully beat it, okay? I want to know what you guys think in the comments box below. Are you going to get this vaccine? Do you think any of this information is a little bit odd as far as the facts that I have provided you? Yeah, let me know. I want to know. I want to talk about it. Drop a comment below. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to share this video. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys so much and have a good one. Bye-bye.